Yay! Boom shakalaka. There we go.
I
We
love it.
live. Welcome to this conversation. I was having a little behind the scenes kiki with Dr. Goddess Giavanni. If you don't know her, get into it. Get into it. Get into it. She is the creatrix of the Black Goddess Oracle deck and Black Goddess Guide. She is an ancestral alchemist. And I'm excited about this
I
conversation.
am
Yes.
too. I'm excited about your deck. I'm excited about the conversation. Let's get into it. Let's do it.
Thank you, sis. Thank you. Well, let me just let the peoples know in case they don't know who I am either. And they're like, you introducing her, but we don't even know you. If we're just meeting for the first time, hey, I am Abiola Abrams, aka Goddess Abiola, and I am the creatrix of these beautiful magical decks. And we are here celebrating the launch of my newest deck, The Secrets of the Ancestors Oracle, which today I realize is coming out on Tuesday. I thought there was another week in
Just a
between.
few days away. A few days away.
A few days away. So if you have not yet pre-ordered, my people's pre-order so that on Tuesday you will receive it and in time for our virtual party and festival. So I'm here talking to Dr. Goddess Giavanni because not only is she the ancestral alchemist, but I thought that it would be really wonderful to celebrate the launch of this deck by having conversations with people who could share, teach, enlighten, empower all of you who are in my circle around working with our ancestors. And so who better than the ancestral alchemist? So tell me about that name, the ancestral alchemist.
I love it. Okay. I know that our time is short, so I'm going to truncate this story. But the short
Okay.
version of the story is, in all of my spiritual and religious journeys, the thing that made the most sense to me was venerating my ancestors, because they are me. I come from them. I carry a deep wound that I think maybe a lot of diasporic people do, not just Africans, but diasporic people who've been ejected
Yeah.
from their lands.
Yes.
And I didn't know a lot of my history, right? I can
Yeah.
go back a few generations and I didn't know a lot of my history. And I wanted to bring that history and those missing stories and that energy and that magic into my life. And so I was like, let's go find about these ancestors. And in that journey, discovered all these traditions that venerate ancestors.
I relate so much to that because that has been my journey as well. I want to just give love to everyone who's here. Hello, Goddess Andrea, Goddess Sharon, Goddess Marnie, Goddess Terry, beautiful brown queen, Jamaican Dougla, everyone who is here. I
And it's
absolutely
International Women's Day. This is important.
And it is Happy International Women's Day. And so the perfect guests actually for International Women's Day are you and Spring Washam, who I am dialoguing with in an hour or so, who channels Harriet Tubman. So this is all together. Yes. And I shared a story in my last book, in African Goddess Initiation, that I didn't realize just how much I knew my personal wounding around, separation, the obvious things, but I didn't realize that how much, I guess there's no other way to put it, how very wounded I was specifically in this area. And I was watching a video of someone who was Ghanaian issuing an apology, a chief issuing an apology to people, throughout the Americas and throughout the Caribbean, specifically, for the African diaspora, for having sold our ancestors into slavery.
Yeah.
And I cried like a baby. And I didn't realize how personal, like on a micro level, like how personally deep, like that I would have that reaction, that I just bawled. And I think that it was also, when I looked at this man, he looked like my family. He resembled my dad. He resembled my peoples. And so it's a very interesting thing. And I'm glad that you brought up, that it's not just with people of African descent, but diasporic people,
100%.
period. And I think that this is important work that we all have to do. And I'm glad that people are doing more ancestral work, people are doing more ancestral work. And so how do you, and I feel like it's with everything that you do, but how do you honor and venerate your ancestors?
This is a fantastic question. In many ways, I've got an ancestral altar right over here. It's actually quite large.
Mhm,
And I have been searching, like as I searched for the goddesses in this deck, I was,
mhm,
my long ago ancestors. Well,
mhm.
I'll take a moment and say, I think that there are at least three categories of ancestors. I think
Yeah,
we've got
at
our
least three.
bloodline, our milk line, and our spirit line. And so
Mhm,
your bloodline are the people that you're related to by blood.
mhm,
Your milk line are those ancestors who have nurtured you in some way, or whose
mhm,
lineage has nurtured you. And
mhm,
then your spirit ancestors are those like non-human beings, spirits, elements,
mhm.
water. And so I consider the Black goddesses to be my milk line ancestors. And as I said, as I've gone to get them, I'm also looking at my own my more recent ancestors. And it's so it's in two ways. Like I honor them spiritually. I talk to them. I set a place for them. I call their name, the ones known and unknown, seen and unseen. And
Mhm.
then my more recent ancestors, I'm literally trying to find them and find their names. Like last week, even I found the names. I was looking for another ancestor and found the names of two of my great 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 grandmothers.
Yes.
And it just there's something that happens every time I find a name.
Yes.
That it's like I sort of envision this is a new thing I'm working on. I don't really know how to say it, but I envision that we have layers, spiritual layers that we carry. And
Yes.
every time I find a name or I can pinpoint another planet in Africa where I'm from, another layer stands up.
Yes.
Right. And it shores me up and it makes me stronger and it makes me more confident, it makes me more fulfilled. And it fills in another piece of that puzzle. And I'm close to being more full in my authenticity. And so I believe saying their names, I dream a lot. They come to me in dreams,
Mhm.
understanding that our ancestors speak to us in ways that we understand.
Mhm.
Like I don't think they're trying to make things complicated. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? And so being open and listening really
Yeah.
is I feel like those are all very vague things, but these are really things that I do.
No, those are not vague things at all. I think that those are all very specific things, very,
Okay.
very specific things. And those are things that I talk about in I didn't realize this conversation was gonna make me so emotional, Dr. Goddess Giovanni, in the guidebook for this deck. Don't It's not a throwaway guidebook. I keep on telling you all that. Like, please, 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 delve into the guidebook for this deck. That's one of the things that I talk about, that the ways that they communicate with us. So,
Yeah.
for example, as you said, in dreams, in signs, they
Yeah.
communicate with us in, the people that they send our way. They communicate with us in the way that they are here with us. Like
Yeah.
we keep coming back. And so, the person that you meet that you feel a connection to, and you're like, I just feel like we're peoples somehow, that's them, and that's them showing up and showing their face and showing up and showing out for you.
That's right.
And yes, and so, keeping a dream journal, I think, is a big part of, should be a key part of everyone's spiritual work. Keeping an ancestral altar. If you missed our lessons on that in this series specifically, go to secretsoftheancestors.com and sign in, register for free so you can see all the replays for this series and see how to make an ancestral altar, because it is important. Ritual is how we have our relationship with the divine. And how wonderful for us that we get to continue that relationship with them. So for you, not only, like you said, the getting to know their names, this is something that work that my family, that I'm blessed to still have my parents thankfully here with me, and that we're doing now. And it is that way. Like when you
Yeah.
find another name, it's another piece of your
Mhm.
own puzzle. Like, oh my goodness,
It's like a
get,
spiritual blankie. It's like,
yeah,
okay, just got another stitch. Like, all right.
yes, yes. So how do you recommend, and again, this is something that I talk about in this guidebook, but I would love for it to have your opinion on it. How do you recommend for people who don't have access of a place to begin at all to have a name. That there are many people who
Yeah.
not only have, ancestral displacement, but their own displacement. Maybe they were adopted, or maybe their parents. I have a client who both of her parents were adoptees, and
Mm,
she is an only child. So people have different
right.
levels of feeling completely cut off. How do you recommend that they do any sort of ancestral work?
One of the things I recommend often to the people who work with me doing ancestral work is to start where you're at.
Mm,
So first thing you can do is say the names. And if you don't know the names, you can say ancestors seen and unseen, known and unknown. And that, whoever wants to come forward with that invitation will come forward. And then look to yourself, right? What are the things that you're into? If you're a dancer, if you're a visual artist, if you're a whatever. If you're a dancer, I say go look at the dance traditions from the place that you think that your people come from. Right.
mhm.
If you're a visual artist, go look at the visual art traditions from the places that you think your people come from, or that that your people come from. And I believe that there's messages in that work. Like just like I believe our voices carry a resonance of their voice. And so when we speak, they can recognize us. I
Mhm.
think the same is true with the sort of cultural expressions that we have. If you're into food, go look at the foodways in the place that you think that you're from. Right. I think
Yeah.
that's it's something that's accessible to everyone. And it's gonna be something in the way that they make it, or in the way that they've described the recipe, or in the way that it tastes a particular way. And they use cloves or they don't use cloves. I don't know why that's the spice that came up, but that's the spice that came up.
Yeah.
There's cloves out there for somebody. That message was for somebody.
Yes,
I think that's a great place to start.
that
Look to
is the one.
what calls to you, your passions, and then seek them in the ancestry lines.
Beautiful, beautiful. Okay, so here's another question that
Okay.
comes up a lot, Dr. Goddess Giovanni. So folks
I
want to
love it.
know, folks want to know, because we all have, like I have the most amazing people in my bloodline, wonderful people, but we all have villains in our bloodline.
True.
We all have, we have angels and devils in our
True.
bloodline, frankly. But there are some people who I know who have said specifically that they feel like, their ancestors were horrible people. And so they feel like, they don't want anything to do with their ancestors. What are your thoughts and advice of if someone is feeling that?
This is an interesting question. I'm of two minds about this. Sharon says Harriet is her shero.
Yeah.
I'm of two minds about this. And on one hand, I think that you can just not invite them in. Someone shared with me this incredible visualization where when you're calling in and you're creating that ring of protection, that you actually also create some bleachers, and you
Mm.
can sit them down in the bleachers. You can invite them to be, but they can't come into the circle of protection. And then my teacher Malidoma Somé always says, he's like, no, these are the answers that you need to work with, right? You need to call them in because they need to resolve the harm that they caused.
Yes.
And so again, I would say trust your body and trust what you're feeling. And if you feel safe and resourced and equipped to call them in and do the work. And if you don't, sit them in the bleachers, and it's okay.
I love that. And I was laughing, smiling, because I did not realize that you are a Malidoma Somé person. I should have recognized that and felt that and known that. I was just talking yesterday about now great ancestor
Right.
Malidoma, and how he said that, and we're talking about a Dagara elder and teacher, how he said that his father used to look into the bowl of water and see what was going on at the farm. And I was sharing that with someone as a form of ancestral meditation that they could do. I think that is wonderful, wonderful advice. And so I know we have 1 minute to go, but I'm going to keep you 2 or 3 minutes
No
longer,
worries.
because being that you did study directly with Malidoma Somé, I would love to know, are there specific Dagara related ancestral traditions or teachings that you learned from him that you can share with our audience? And
Well, I think I
don't
don't
get
want to have
on the
this.
spot or anything.
No, 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 it's okay. I won't go into the ritual because that will take
Yeah.
some time. But I think what I love most about Malidoma's teachings is I studied the divination tradition, the character divination tradition with him.
Mhm.
He repeatedly, it was the underpinning of his teaching was that there's not a hierarchy. between us and the ancestors. And I know in some other traditions, it feels very hierarchical. And
Mhm.
he's like, no, they can't do their work in the world without you, and you can't do your work without their fire. So it's very reciprocal. And he's like, and talk to them as such, you know, with respect, but also with clarity that we need each other. You know, that's what I would say would be the most important teaching that I took from Malidoma, working with the ancestor Malidoma.
Yes, beautiful, beautiful. I'm so glad that we had this chat. I know that you are going to be in Arizona. We're going to be there at I Can Do It in a couple of weeks. Some people here are attending I Can Do It.
Excellent.
You have a book signing. Share with people, you know, the things that are going on. Show
What's
your
going on? Excellent. Yeah. So we're taking the deck on tour. This is the deck, the Black Goddess Within Oracle deck. It came out in December. We're very excited about it. And
Yay.
we are, I decided that we got to get in front of the people, right? And so we're going on tour. When we're in Phoenix, we're going to do a book signing at Fantasia Crystals. It's in Phoenix. I don't know how far it is from where the conference is or anything like that.
Okay.
I should figure that out. And then we're also going to be in May. We're going to be in Portland at 2 places, and we're at Third Eye Bag in Queen Meb. And then we're going to be at 3 places in Oakland also in May. And so that's the beginning of this tour. I think this will be going on for a year. We will go further and further east as we go, but we started on the West Coast because that's where we are. And I think, what else can I say about this? Well, you can always find me at Black Goddess Within on Instagram, Black Goddess Within on Facebook. And yeah, we're open and love to connect with the folks. I think it's really important that we have like your deck, Adama's deck, the Black Moon Lilith deck, all the oh my goodness, Spring's book about Harriet Tubman. It's so important that we have these images and these representations of Black female divinity to bring the healing to the world that they're bringing, right? It comes in all forms and all shapes and all sizes.
Well said. Well said. Thank you. Well, I know that I'm looking forward to, you know, giving you a hug in a couple of weeks
Meet you in person.
and meeting in person. And so we're not only just celebrating, you know, the launch and birth of my deck. Your deck is fairly newly birthed into the world. We are celebrating all of us who are on this journey together. So thank you so much, my beautiful goddess, for joining us in this conversation. Everyone definitely go hang out all the places that
Right.
Dr. G just mentioned and come back. We'll be back on at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So that is in about 40 minutes or so with Spring Washam, exactly wherever you are watching this. And definitely sign in to secretsoftheancestors.com so that you can get the replays for this totally free and all of the other wonderful goodies that are there. All right. So I'll see y'all in a little bit.
Thank you for having me, Abiola. Congratulations. I can't wait to get your deck.
Yay. Thank you, sis. Have a beautiful day.
Right. Peace.
Bye.
Oh, should it?